in Basel. So for the agenda, so a short introduction, then after the presentation we'll start with Stephane Derouin, and for approximately 1 hour, and then after we'll have conclusions and QA sessions, and then you will be invited for an apéro downstairs, should be confirmed. Yes, just something about the room. So it was not planned to be in this tiny room today, so it was a last minute change. So yeah, I apologize for that. So I'm pretty sure you are used to follow the PMI Switzerland chapter for different media, so either LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. So if you are not a member yet, please join us. Something important, so there is a mentoring program at PMI, and ever you could be interested to be a mentor, so willing to train some other people on project management, or you would like to be a mentee, just to benefit from the experience of some other people in project management. So in this case, please have a look on our website. At the moment, we have approximately 25 mentors and 10 mentees. So, warm welcome tonight to Stéphane, so who did a long way to come there, so from Rennes in France. He's the co-founder of PMI French Chapter in 1995, so a long time ago. You are the Chief Executive of PMGS, so a training and consulting company in France, and you are now a teacher for a Master of Science at the International Project Management School in Paris. So Q&A is for later, after the introduction. So Stéphane, please, the stage is for you.
Good evening. Happy New Year, because we are in January. I think it's all right to say Happy New Year until next week. Yes, I'm coming from the west of France, from Rennes, and I hope to come back tomorrow, because it's a Black Friday in France with a strike, and I'm not sure to be at home tomorrow, but tomorrow never knows. Okay, effectively my subject is on hybrid, because it's I'm still working since 6 years on hybrid, because like you see, I'm in the project management field since 25 years, and in a PMI vision, waterfall, very waterfall at the beginning, and more we introduce Agile in our methodologies and approach, and 6 years ago I start to think how to mix waterfall and Agile at the portfolio level, at the program level, at the project level, and how to do it. And it's my subject this evening. Don't hesitate to interrupt me to discuss directly, because also I'm a practitioner. I'm not, I have studied a long time ago philosophy and political science, but I am a practitioner in project management. What is the question? I'm using two experiences with two clients. One with a leading global food and beverage company, but it's not Nestlé, it's in France, but it's, and also a global leader in oil and gas in engineering, also transformation program, how to introduce Agile in very heavy waterfall processes. Here it's also to create a booklet including Agile, hybrid in waterfall methodologies, etc., assessment. Okay, we can start. Okay, next. Perhaps to summarize, but you are practitioner too, and you know, I think in deep, the notion of between, a waterfall predictive with a plan, with a very detailed plan, and the agile approaches with increment, iteration. I don't know if you are you are using Agile in your day-to-day job. You can. Okay, and you are using what? Scrum or DevOps or Scrum?
Yeah.
And are you using Safe? Not yet, because you know Safe it's Agile at scale. It's the new frontier for Agile. Okay, next. It's very interesting to compare the strength from Agile to waterfall methodology and approach. Here you know you have the famous tunnel effect, because you start here, you receive an order or you propose a solution with a lot of requirements, and at the end you show to your client, are you satisfied? No. Lot of changes, lot of modification, lot of misunderstanding. And in Agile it's totally different, because we are working step by step, by increment. You have a notion minimum viable product, and it's another philosophy, it's totally different, Agile compared to waterfall. And what is interesting in Agile, we need to deliver value very quickly. You know perhaps this quadrant, you have complexity, technical effort here, and business value. And the goal since the beginning is to deliver the higher value and very simple. And it's totally different in mind from waterfall perspective. Okay. Also, you know, it's very important in terms of understanding. In waterfall, you need to deliver 100% of requirements. If not, it's a quality failure. In Agile, it's not the question to deliver 100%, because we need to meet the customer needs, and you can stop at 60% of the effort if the customer is happy with this. In waterfall, it's difficult, and we know very often in waterfall, if we stop at 80% of the scope, it's perfect. The challenge is to deliver 100%. And very often it's too much effort for nothing, but we are obliged to do, because it's a commitment to deliver 100% of requirements. It's a challenge of, a quality challenge. We are obliged to deliver 100%. In terms of tools and techniques, what also it's new from Agile, and it's a new approach, not really new, nothing is new, but you have, from the beginning of a project to co-design, to co-construct with the clients, with the major stakeholders, the suppliers, to work since the beginning all together, and to co-design the scope, to co-design the content of a project. It's better to work all together since the beginning and all along the project. You have also the notion of backlog, the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and it's it's with features, not with requirements. We are more with features, and after we translate features in stories, perhaps the user stories, and after in tasks. But it's better to manage changes during the project, this approach. You have also the visual management. More and more is not just only for Agile, but it's also in the field of Agile spirit to work with visual management. Also, a lot of tools we are using to estimate, for example, Fibonacci and the poker planning to estimate, because the more challenging way for a project manager is to estimate the effort, the duration, and with a collective approach and poker planning, perhaps the poker planning, we can decide collectively and agree collectively the duration of the effort of a task or part of a component of a project. And also what is interesting in Agile tools and techniques is the regular retrospective, regular feedback, continuous feedback to control and to change and to adapt the path of our project. The challenge also in Agile, you have more of 20 sorts of methodologies in Agile. You remember Agile is coming from software development. It's dedicated to small project, short project, small team. It's the story, because Agile is now has 30 years. It's not new, Agile. It's not new. Very often for companies, they say, Agile, the new frontier. Agile is wonderful. Agile exists since 30 years. And from software development. And you have a lot of methodologies. I know Scrum, because Scrum is at this time is 90% of Scrum in Agile, but I'm not convinced it's the best methodology in Agile, but it's a question of fashion. You have Scrum. Yeah?
What's your favorite methodology?
I prefer to start Kanban from you know, the lean, and you have Kanban with a little k and with a big K. The two are interesting. And also some of my clients are using DevOps for software development. And safe. Okay? You know the famous safe, because the challenge in Agile is dedicated for small project, small team, short duration. But how to do it for a large project, long project, complex project. And you have now, the name is Agile at scale, and you have 3 different methodologies at scale. The best for the moment is safe, is the V5, now the V5 is safe, but you have also a methodology with name DAD, Discipline Agile, and now PMI is buying Discipline Agile to integrate Discipline Agile in the future. It's a competitor of safe, and you have also less, and for me less is more. But you have 3 methodologies on Agile at scale. But like you see, what is interesting, but for me, safe is hybrid, because you know it's like the PM book, very detailed, structured, relatively complex to manage, and you have. But it's interesting because you are working at the portfolio level, at program level, and for the team, and you see you have, for example, 3 different projects. Agile really strained. You have. It's relatively complex to manage, and I know in France it's Capgemini who is the leader to support the deployment of SAFe in the companies. Because also don't hesitate to ask for tools like ServiceNow, Jira, Trello, Slack, Jazz, what you want, okay? And it's interesting, this map, because in our vision, a project is not just focused on execution. Because very often, for companies, project is dedicated to deliver, execute. But in reality, project is before. It's during, for example, the pre-study, study, proof of concept, tender, bid, offer, because we need to create a project to find a way to have a new market. And very often project is closed in execution vision, is too short also. And when you see here, just an example, the different, a sample of Agile techniques, including SAFe, and you see business case, initiative, all things we can do when we are in project, and no one is able to manage the entire life cycle of a project. It's very interesting because it's also a challenge to have, we say end-to-end. It's very important to have an end-to-end approach of a project, to integrate before the execution, because like a child, we don't, our life starts before the first day of our life in the world, okay? Just to summarize the option, now we have 3 options to manage a project. Waterfall, but the limits of a waterfall is the change, the variability, the unclear scope, also the challenge to innovate, how to innovate with a pure waterfall, very descriptive, very detailed plan. We have Agile, but we will discuss after the challenge of Agile is more focused on from software, not just now for software, but it's for small project, for short duration, but is not true for all projects. And hybrid, it's a mix of both. And I would like to share with you experiences from real clients in real life since 2 years. First of all, also to clarify, we have a misunderstanding or confusion, perhaps also from the top management, from executive, a confusion between agility and agile. Agility is a mindset. It's really a collective thinking. It's different. Agility is very interesting. It is another way to work all together. Collective intelligence, visual management, like the poker planning also, we decide all together, integrates customer-centric, etc. But in the next slide, I describe, yes, you know, it's a sort of, you have agility to manage complexity. On the left, you have traditional tools, technique, and approach from waterfall. On the right, agile, and you have different things, different vision of time, of task, of scope, and agility is more, yes, a behavior, a mindset. And I'm sure for the future we need to integrate agility for all projects, the spirit of agility, to work differently, especially with the young generation, because they don't want to work like in the old army, old-fashioned army. It will be difficult to recruit to work like in the past with young generation. But Agile has also limits. For me also, is not just true for hybrid, it's true for project management. We need to work on 3 axes. Governance, especially on portfolio, and we are working here with PMI Basel on an initiative on the project portfolio management with Loïc, with Cédric, and it's very important also this notion of portfolio, project portfolio management, and it's the governance level, methodology and tools, and skills. And when you are obliged to transform a company, when you are obliged to change the way to deliver, to do projects, you need to work at the same time on the 3 axes. Because if you are just focused on one axis, it's not good. And it's a big challenge, but you know, for companies at this time, we are obliged to change the offer, the products, the way to work, the spirit. It's a tough moment for companies. It's a big challenge, but we are obliged all together to change. And I think hybrid is a good way, good triggers and leverage to change. First of all, because I will start, just from the, it's interesting from, you know, Pulse of a Profession from PMI, you know, it's a survey, a regular survey. And this survey is particularly interesting for us. It's not from me, because, you know, I'm working since 6 years on hybrid. But when I see this, I say, I'm on the good path. And you have, for the innovators, you know, they compare innovators to laggards. And what is very important to master now? First of all, it's change management. Change. It's a commitment. We need to manage change. For me, it's transformation, but change. Secondly, hybrid project management practices. It's not from me to validate my way, but it's the second skill to master. And the rest, design thinking, agile and DevOps, for me it's also from agile or agility mindset, you know. Because DevOps, it's an agile method, and agile, okay, but you have the design thinking. And during my presentation, I would like to talk also of design thinking, because it's, for me, it's a part of agility mindset. And it's very interesting to know, it's now, you have a technology quotient, like, you know, IQ. Now you are obliged, when you are project manager, you are obliged to master technology. It's a commitment. When I start to present hybrid, I was obliged to illustrate to the you know, the notion, the challenge, because it's not simple at the beginning. And I think art is very interesting because art is very often prophetic. And with art, we can have a view on the future. And I love music, and I think music is very interesting to compare with our professional life, models, organization, role, and evolution of music. Evolution of music, in reality, is the evolution of our life. And I put here the different approach, predictive, iterative, etc. But for me, what is important is to understand the evolution of our model. At the beginning, we are, in project management, a symphonic orchestra. And in a symphonic orchestra, no surprise for the audience, no surprise for the musician, all is under control. And the conductor is regarding the musician, not the audience, you know, like a project manager. He's not regarding the client, that's, you know, not the same direction. And the conductor has a score, all musicians have a score, very precise, and the commitment is to deliver the score, strictly. Perhaps with regarding the conductor, different interpretation, you know, Wagner during 3 hours or 4 hours, depend on the, you know, the rhythm to deliver. But, you know, waterfall is typically a symphonic orchestra. In terms of mind, in terms of way to do it, we don't need to be the musician, we don't need to be very strong and very high in terms of, you know, to master instruments. We need to be good, but no more. And if 1 or 2 musicians don't play during the song, is not a problem, like sometimes in a project, you know. But in Agile, for me, Agile is typically a jazz band, you know, like Miles Davis, John Coltrane. It's totally different because you are 4 or 5 musicians, very, very strong experts of the instrument. And you have an interaction between musician and with the audience. And it's a surprise. They don't know exactly, it's a surprise for all. And sometimes it's boring, but sometimes it's genial. And the difficulty, each musician must be very strong and interact with the others continuously and also with the audience. And we have surprise, you know, because you know you have very often course grid, sort of backlog, but the melody is a pretext. For example, for John Coltrane, for My Favorite Things, from a musical, the melody is a pretext. In classical music, melody is the art. And the rhythm here is very important. For 5 musicians, the rhythm, the drums, the bass is very important. And in Agile, you have the velocity, the rhythm, to deliver with the rhythm. The rhythm in classical music is not the question. You have effective cadenza, but it's not the rhythm like in jazz. And for me, hybrid is the new approach. Why hybrid? Because hybrid and rock and roll is a mix of the both. Because at the same time, in terms of format, you have 4 or 5 musicians, or 3 or 2, max 5 or perhaps 6, 7, but very often 3, 4, 5, with a strong rhythm, very powerful, but the music is relatively simple to play. You don't need to have a technician of instrument very strong to deliver, and you can play not like, you know, the Sex Pistols, never mind the Bollocks, but because it's really relatively weak in terms of techniques, but with the Stones or the Beatles, Love Me Do, for example, Love Me Do is very simple to play, but you can have a big success with a very simple song. Is not the case here. Or it's very complex to listen, very complex to play. It's totally different. And also in hybrid, like in classical music, audience wants to hear the best songs. If you are in a concert of Depeche Mode, you want to hear the best song, the hits from Depeche Mode, not to have a sort of improvisation on master and servant, or I don't know. And also, it's like in classical music, no surprise. But at the same time, the musician look the audience. It's a sort of interaction, it's sort of, you know, a powerful interaction with the audience. You know, here, it's not the case, perhaps you participate to classical concert and you imagine it's enough, and it's completely different spirit. But for me, hybrid is typically rock and roll, simple with a big success. Also, what is interesting with this model of music to understand the evolution, it's also the impact on organization and governance. Because the governance is not the same when you have 80 musicians with scores, with a first violin, very detailed, you follow the score. Here, it's totally free. And here, we need to play the songs. And in terms also of behavior, of spirit, of mindset, it's different. It's different to play Love Me Do and to play the Symphony number 2 of Mahler, or I don't know, Love Supreme of John Coltrane. Different music, different also instrument, and perhaps next also in terms of tools, because we see the impact on roles. You know, a chief, like in the past, we have a chief, vertical chief. Here is more a product owner, the voice of a customer, Miles Davis. And here, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, servant leaders. But what is interesting also, you know, when you are changing the organization, the music, you change also the tools, the instrument. When you play electric guitars, you don't play the same music when you play violin, you know. When you are playing saxophone, a trumpet is different. And it's like us. If we change the methodology, we change tools, we change all environments of our job. And it's why also it's very interesting to see the impact on the roles, spirit, mindset regarding, and when you decide to play Agile, you need to know the impact for you. People are not able to deliver in Agile. It's difficult. Waterfall is more comfortable. We have a lot of burnout with Agile. I don't know if it's the case in your companies, but yes, Agile is really demanding. It's difficult. It's why we have a lot of human problems with Agile also. It's why when we decide, it's not a fashion way, when we decide to play in Agile or in hybrid, we need to know the impact on roles, skills, tools, governance, organization. It's very important. It's a new notion. I don't know if you share in your company the notion of servant leader. Is the new way to be. You remember manager, project leader, now servant leader. It's a new model to be in this environment, Agile and also hybrid environment. We need to be different to serve the team, to serve the project, to serve the client is another spirit. And it's a new notion, I don't know if you have in your company, the servant leadership. More and more we speak of servant leadership. Just an example of organization, you know, it's difficult because for me it depends on the company and the project and the situation, but you need to define the game. And you have, because also it's a problem of power and authority within the project. Before, in Waterfall, the power and authority for project manager. But in Scrum, you haven't project manager. You have a Scrum Master and a product owner. And who has the power is the product owner. The Scrum Master now is the coach, a facilitator, is not the boss. It's also, you imagine for us, in project management, for project manager, in Scrum, we have lost our power. And for me, in terms of model, but I can share with you example. But yeah, no, after it's on PM box. But you know, you have now the product owner, and in the past, very often was the product manager. Product manager becomes the voice of a customer, a project manager, but I would like to detail after, and a servant leader. But a servant leader is a sort of facilitator, a coach, but also is not obvious to be a servant leader. It's a challenge. And perhaps for you, you don't want to be a servant leader, but it's a question to ask for yourself in terms of future. Okay? Because we are in a PMI event, I'm obliged to speak of PMI, PMBOK, you know. It's a commitment for me. And just to prove hybrid and agile is for us, PMI members in PMI, very important. In the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge, version 6, you have also agile and hybrid methodology in the 6. And the first thing is interesting is to tailor. You have a project life cycle. We keep a project life cycle. For all projects, you have a project life cycle. And the challenge is to tailor the project life cycle, to define in what phase you need to work in agile or in waterfall. And the mix is a hybrid. Now, in some slides to show within the PMBOK, focus on the project life cycle, you see in the PMBOK, agile life cycle, and you have hybrid life cycles. It's just to show you, in this PMBOK, you have the challenge of agile and hybrid. Also, the famous knowledge areas, the 10 domains, you remember, it's a sort of the Bible, our Bible, but we need to change because I can show you these 7. But you see, for each domain, you have an equivalent in agile. Integration, build a collaborative decision-making environment, project scope management, backlog, etc., etc. And it's very interesting to see the equivalence between waterfall and agile within the PMBOK in the real life. Because hybrid is the real life. Short term, long term. We can plan, we change. We have a plan, we are obliged to change the plan. It's our life in project management. It's for the schedule, because schedule, is very important when you have a very detailed plan. The schedule is the WBS, but the schedule is a part of the WBS and the plan. And it's the same, you see here, product roadmap, release, iteration, retrospective, in the PMBOK, and you have both, product owner, project manager, Scrum team, meetings, planning, and you see backlog within the PMBOK vision, schedule management plan, and time box period. It's exactly in the PMBOK an hybrid vision. Lots of agile best practices also, and you have also other Scrum agile method. And it's also a scoop, because at this time we are working on the 7th version of the PMBOK. And also you can participate, you can put your experiences, your vision, yes, you can share with the group to create the new PMBOK, the V7 in 2021, next year, I think during the fall, we will have a new PMBOK, and you see totally different. And not 800 pages, less is more. Because for young generation, when they see the PMBOK, and also executive of companies, it's boring, it's not useful, it's for experts, it's for technicians, it's a sort of, for geek, the geek of project management. And the new PMBOK, it's totally different. It's finished for the knowledge areas, you have performance domains, it's totally different, the famous tailoring. And you have here, the standard, delivery principle, and the notion of value, and value delivery. Value is really from Agile, it's a vision from Agile. We need to deliver value to our customers, not, we are not a sort of bureaucrats. We need to deliver values and useful immediately for the customer. But you can have my presentation after all, and I don't want to detail. But it's very interesting to see, the words for the new PMBOK. Totally new. It's a new vision, it's a revolution for the PMI, and I think we are in a PMI meeting, PMI event. It's very important for you to know this, and also to see how the supertanker now is changing. The PMI supertanker, because PMI is a supertanker, I think now we have more 1 million of PMPs, 1 million of certified PMPs, 1 million. And in July, the examination, the PMP examination, the 200 questions will split with 100 questions on Agile and Hybrid. Since July of this year. It's a lot of change, okay? Now, I would like to enter in more concrete thing.
Is it too warm? Should we open a window?
Yes, it's a way to sleep. And now I would like to share with you some experiences with customers, from practitioner experiences, concrete things from project management view. We are also very abstract. We are intellectuals in project management. First of all, at the portfolio level, and it's very interesting now to have the PMO. For me, PMO now, the P means portfolio. Not only project or program, but portfolio. A PMO is dedicated also to manage the portfolio. And at the portfolio level, to deploy in your strategy, you need to choose the right methodology for your project at the portfolio level. And you need to have a path selector, a method selector to determine what is the right methodology for this project regarding elements. But after all, I will detail. And you have the three: waterfall, hybrid, agile. And for example, in agile, I see this, regarding the size of a project. If it's a light project, you don't need to take Scrum, because the duration of a sprint is minimum 2 weeks. And if your project duration is, 1 month, don't use Scrum, it's stupid. But Kanban is interesting, to use Kanban for a small agile project. And if you have, for example, if you need to develop a portal to promote a product for your company, and it's a project to create this portal for this product, but you can use Kanban to develop very quickly and efficiently this new project. If it's a huge, not a huge, but a big project, you can work in Scrum. But Scrum, tonight is not a night on Scrum, because Scrum is, very detailed, specialized with words, terminology, rituals, but it's not my core subject. We can discuss of this, but it's different. And at scale, it's safe. For huge program in Agile, you can use SAFe. And SAFe also is very important for large companies to use SAFe. You have SAP, SAFe, and ServiceNow. Now it's a package. In large company, you are obliged to have the three. For the shareholders. It's a sort to ensure your back. In waterfall, I explained, you can work on waterfall in early phases before the execution, during the execution, or end-to-end, all along the duration of your project, from the birth to the services, the maintenance of the project. Different moment in life, in project life. In hybrid, same thing in waterfall, but it's away from clients in recovery. For example, if you have a waterfall project and lots of trouble, to recover, to back to track, is better to back to track with Agile tools and techniques from Agile than before to kill the project manager, to have an audit, to spend lots of time and money. It's better to have a sort of task, a squad, a commando, if you want, of Agile people to back on track for this project. Okay, but it's hybrid because the project initially, yes?
And how do you deal with Scrum projects that have gone off the rails?
Perhaps with waterfall. And perhaps, for the moment, yeah, but we have a lot of trouble with Agile projects. Huh? At this time, people from Agile now is hesitating to be pure Agile because lots of problems with Agile, it's a two vision. Okay, next, and perhaps this is, I think, very interesting because when you manage at the portfolio level, how to decide, how to select the right methodology regarding the project. You need to decide the right project, the right methodology, the right people. And at the beginning, I would like to create a sort of, we say in French, usine à gaz. Very complex solution with algorithm. You have the famous typology of different projects, the criteria, the prioritization. In French, we say prioritization, and algorithm to define what is the right methodology for this project. But it's too complicated to manage and not clear in terms of also to create meaning, and because the question of meaning is very important. And we decide to have this type of presentation with, typology. The question is, what is the project type? For example, if the project is an innovation project, don't take waterfall. To innovate today, you can innovate with a very detailed plan. How to innovate with a plan detail? It's impossible. Or you take Agile at the beginning of a project to fix the scope, for example, to have just an early phase of a project, in the study phase, in pre-study, or all along the project, I don't know, or in the middle, hybrid, a part of Agile and waterfall. I have a question, the level of clarity and complexity of the scope. If it's a nuclear submarine, I vote for waterfall, I prefer, I'm more comfortable. Agile, no. But requirements are fully or well defined. High level of complexity can be managed. Here is not requirement, in Agile it's features. You remember needs, features, stories, task. It's totally different. But stories, the tools and techniques from user stories, very interesting also. Also regarding the team and stakeholder. In waterfall, we don't need to have, we can start without risk, with a team not very experienced. With Agile, we need, like jazz, we need to master rituals, Scrum, because very often in companies, they want to play Scrum, but they don't know Scrum. We have a product owner, don't know. It's a mess. And because it's a fashion to be agile. And to be agile, you need to master the subject. Also, the availability of the customer. In Agile, customers is fully available. In waterfall, it is not the question. But also is the limit of waterfall because it's the tunnel effect. We don't need to have the customer with us, but the limit is not with us. The planning, but it's, in waterfall, it's planning driven. Here is business value driven. Is another vision. We are focused on business value to deliver value very quickly. In waterfall, it's not the question. It's the planning. We follow the gates, the toll gates, the milestone strictly, perhaps, and we have something to do. And also here, the same, 100% of requirements. Here is not a question of requirements. It's to deliver value regarding the needs of the customer. It's relatively, it's different vision, but it's very important to know when you decide the methodology, to have the right question, okay? And after I take a time on early phases, okay? Now, if you have decided to deliver in hybrid, a project, just before it was at portfolio level, now we are at project level. If the project is hybrid, how can we do? And it's to explain, it's not simple to explain, but it's not the truth on the earth. Huh? It's a way to do with a client in real life. And we have three options. The first option, and it's relatively strange, but it's from a client because the client, my client, is really on command and control vision. Command and control, very strict. Finance control, budget control, very strict. And it's okay to deliver in Agile, but with a waterfall governance, you know, with a project control and under the responsibility of project controller, very strict. You have a sort of, you know, it's hybrid, but it's a really special way to deliver in hybrid. In reality, it's Agile under strict control. Because you know, in Agile, there are three. There are two, product owner, Scrum Master, that they are totally free, in theory. Option 2, deliver in Agile and waterfall sequentially. You know, you start in Agile, for example, your project. For example, to initiate the project, to be clear on the specification, the requirement, the features, and you prefer to work by increment to define with your clients, also your suppliers, and to clarify all together. And for example, one of my clients is working on open book estimate. You know, open book, we are totally transparent with the client, with not our client, and it's an open book. And the client is knowing our P&L. This is not a problem, it's more simple to discuss. If we are totally transparent, it's really a partnership, but it's not possible for all projects and all clients. And you know, you can have, first of all, sprint or agile approaches during a moment, a phase moment of your project, and after, for example, a frozen of the scope, you deliver is better if the scope is very clear. It's better to deliver in waterfall. Option 3, in parallel, and it's very clear and very interesting because very often it's the case by your RAD, you have a new product development, and in your project of product, you have software, electronical, mechanical. Software is managed in Agile. Mechanical is managed in waterfall. Electronical in waterfall. And perhaps you have other things. And it's true for a lot of companies. In the same projects, you have different components. And some of them are managed in Agile, some of them are managed in waterfall. It's the same project. It's exactly also the same perspective at the program level. You know, a program, it's the sum of interrelated projects all together. And in program, for example, for Airbus, you have part in Agile, the software, part mechanical, part you have lot. It's a program, and in the same program, you have Agile projects and waterfall projects in the same program. It's exactly this. You have different components, but you are obliged to manage all together in the same project with different methodologies. It's also an hybrid approach. In reality, hybrid, we are working since a long time in hybrid, but we don't know, and we need to formalize, to create a standard, to be more clear on what is hybrid for us. Okay? You have a question?
Wouldn't be another option
Oh yes, certainly.
making the scope definition in waterfall and then execution in Agile?
Yes. It's I think depend. It's why this slide is linked to a type of activity of project, but perhaps it's why it's open. First of all, waterfall. After Agile. First of all, depend, and perhaps during the different phase of life cycle, you can have a part in Agile. After waterfall, you return. I don't know, depend of the duration and the complexity of your project, but we need to be open and to take all tools and techniques coming from the two methodologies and to mix, like, you know, a DJ. Now the project manager is a DJ, you know, and how to mix. And it's complicated, but you have a lot of, it's a tough job. Okay?
May I excuse again, sorry for this noise. We already started to work out where is the noise coming from, and the hotel should stop it. So really, I'm so sorry that we today have this poor room, this poor situation. I invite you for apéro afterwards.
Yeah, 2 beers. And also, it's interesting, and for me, it's important to say regarding the end-to-end approach, especially for, you know, in study, ideation phase, pre-study. I don't know what is your words for this moment before the execution, never mind. But before the execution, it's very interesting to use, you know, when the scope of the solution is unclear, you have a lot of challenges. It's very interesting before the execution phase to use also tools and techniques from Agile, and it's also hybrid, because a lot of things need to be better, especially when we have a challenge to innovate. We need to change our practices since the beginning. And just to explain, the hybrid also is useful before the execution. An example, because I don't know if you are using design thinking in your company. You are using design thinking? No? Because design thinking is also fashion, but it's really interesting. It's a part of agility mindset, you know, collective intelligence, customer-centric, debate, vote. And it's really relatively interesting also to use design thinking in early phases, and also a part of hybrid vision. For example, with my large engineering oil and gas company, you imagine its platform in ocean, 2 billions, 3 billions, or in Supérieure, 10 billions, and it's very heavy. But to define with the clients, for example, Ecole or I don't know, Shell, etc., to work all together since the beginning and to define the content of the scope of the project with the tools from Agile. It's very interesting. Agile, yes. Changes, modification, issue, problems, our life. How to manage here and now, and to have a vision of the final result. And I suggest, perhaps it's for the future, for the PMI chapter for Switzerland, to have an evening on design thinking. I think it's very interesting. Perhaps, you know, the words are fashionable, because, you know, it's in management you have, you know, fashion like for the rest of our life. But I think it's very useful, the methodology from design thinking, to define all together with a client, with a supplier, all together a new way to define the content and the spirit and the limits of the project. Okay? Yes. For me, the hybrid, introduce hybrid is really a transformation approach. It's transformation. You know, the notion of transformation is everywhere now, how to transform companies. And I'm sure hybrid, it's a way to transform the companies, not just at the project level, but projects are very important to transform. It's, you know, the bottom line of the transformation, our projects are the bottom line. And it's a sort of journey, you know, a voyage, we say in French, but a journey. And we start to define the set list, because depending if it's classical music, jazz music, rock and roll music, we have a challenge regarding the competencies, the profiles of people. We need also to do casting. You remember in project you have staffing and casting. And with this new vision, we need to cast people. to select the right people regarding the right methodology and the right, spirit to work together or not. And also regarding a lot of things around the projects. And it's very important to define your set list. What do you want to play? And after, you can set up your group. If you can choose people, it's difficult. Very often it's, you don't choose the team. But regarding this new vision, the casting is really important to select the right people in the team to deliver in Agile. Because you have a musician, classical musician, and you said, now you play jazz, you imagine? And it's the case. I see this in the company. They play classical music, very good. And now you play jazz. I don't understand jazz. And I don't want to play jazz. And I don't like jazz, And the rock and roll is the same. The advantage of rock and roll is very simple. It's for all people. It's democratic. Rock and roll is from the middle class. Simple, useful, good, powerful, no problem. And it's why it's very important to have a casting approach, because if you demand to a guy, now you are a product owner, okay, I don't know, and you follow 2 days of training, and after it's good, I'm not sure, it's dangerous. But for the executive, they say, now we are agile, and my company is agile, okay. But they don't know what means to be agile in reality. It's just a fashion. And after, when you have defined your set list, you have your group, and you can perform your concert. And normally, it's okay. My last slide is my proposal. I think we need to transform the PMO, the Portfolio Management Office, into a Transformation Management Office. Because regarding the stakes, the situation, the disruption, the challenge for all companies, I'm working a lot for manufacturing companies, and it's really difficult. For example, in automotive, Tesla in Germany. Wow. It's a challenge for Volkswagen, Mercedes, then BMW. It's complicated, and in 1 year they want to build a factory to produce, like in China, Tesla. Wow. It's why we need now to change, and how to change with transformation approach. And you have, in certain companies, you have now a person in charge of a transformation, perhaps you have in your company. And for us, from the project management area, I think it's a big opportunity to us to have the power, more power, and to be in this way of transformation. It's an opportunity for us because we master and we know what is a project, how to do it, how to deliver. And when you are at this time, only projects can change deeply the companies. And I'm sure if you can push on a TMO, if you are in a PMO, it's a big opportunity for you and for all communities around the TMO. And you are working, like I have explained, on governance, methodology and tools and competencies. To finish effectively, I don't speak of tools because the question is tools. And regarding discussion with executive, they say, now I have service now. No problem. Now it's okay. My project portfolio, everything is good with service now, with Jira, with I don't know. But if you have a Steinway, you don't play like Rubinstein. And it's better to have a very simple piano but to play well with a simple piano. And we have a Steinway because it's very expensive. For example, ServiceNow is very expensive. It's very good, but very expensive. And to play what? To play what? Later to, a small play of Beethoven or to play a complex song. It's why it's very important to not to focus on the tools, because when we are project manager, we speak a lot of tools. What is your tool? Jira, Microsoft, I don't know. You have a lot of tools. It's a business, and it's a business also for huge company like Accenture. Accenture, ServiceNow. Capgemini, it's safe. You have Salesforce, you have ESCP, you have a lot of tools, but it's not the issue, it's not the question. We know this. The tools are to serve, but at the same time, tools are important because if you play electric guitar, it's different if you play violin. And an electric guitar, it's a tool. It's why also tool, it's important, but it's not the first concern for us to be on the tools way, you know. What is your tool? Oh, we have Teams, we have this. Never mind. For the moment, it's not the question, the right question. Okay, have you any question? Yes?
One question regarding this slide. You're referencing big data. So what's your take on big data and this whole?
Because data now is the gold mine. And you remember now project manager needs to manage technology and data. And data for all companies is a gold mine. And it's also a change to integrate data in our projects. It's very important to have also data in our projects. It's a sort of, it's obvious now to have data because the future is how to manage data. And for example, one of my clients, Schneider Electric, the competitor, the potential competitor for Schneider Electric is Google. Because Schneider is a manufacturing company, you know, to manage energy, but what is important now is to manage data. Data to decide the temperature of the factory on the cloud. And you know, the question of sensor is nothing, the sensor is not expensive, the sensor. You can put sensors everywhere. But the question of data, how to manage data from the sensor and how to decide. And Google can buy a sensor company for nothing. You know, the 1,000 billions of dollars in terms of, you know, on the stock exchange. To buy a company of, I don't know, 5 billions is nothing. And they can kill Schneider Electric in 1 year. It's why also it's very important to integrate this notion.
I've been trying to convince friends of mine to stay away from big data because that's a short-term career.
Yeah, oh yes.
Because AI is going to take over
Yes.
and get rid of everything.
Yeah, yes, it's the next step. Yes, IoT and after, yes.
But in terms of agile projects, the issue that I continue to see when you work in a corporate environment, how do I go to corporate finance and say, I need a pot of money, I don't know what I'm going to build, but I need to build it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
corporate finance says, go away, bring me a credit request,
Yeah.
it's got some,
Yeah. Yeah.
details on it.
Yes, you are right. We have a contract challenge issue also in Agile, but especially also for if you are working for a state. They want Agile, but how many sprints? What are the MVP? And very often you have specific now contract for Agile, and they decide to define toll gates. You know, you don't negotiate toll gates. Toll gates are really a commitment. For the rest, you are free. And toll gates and concrete deliverables, and they pay. The budget is based on toll gates and major deliverables. For me, it's not really minimum valuable product, but it's a sort of, you know, an increment, very solid increment to deliver between two toll gates. Because for me also, it's very important to keep toll gates in hybrid and also in Agile to avoid the labyrinth. You know, Agile, we are lost because we change, we spend money and nothing's happened. It's also a limit of Agile. But yes, for finance guy, it's why I think they will be more comfortable with hybrid, because with hybrid, we bring, you know, a sort of architecture, a skeleton, you know. In Agile, finance is not Agile. Huh? And executive, too, they are not Agile. They say, we need to be Agile, but they are not Agile. because you know they are.
They care about the methodology you use.
Yeah, they don't care of methodology. For them, methodology is a sort of bureaucratic way.
They want you to deliver.
Yes, they want just results. But methodology is a good way to have the result. Methodology is the key. Not only methodology, the team, lot of things. Methodology is very important. Like in music, if you play classical music or jazz music, the results will be different. And yes, it's important to know and to explain also to executive this reality.
In my company, we deal with software development and projects for customers. I'm on the project management side, and we have 100 developers. We all have a lot of arguments. Maybe hybrid is maybe my solution. The developers keep saying that they can only plan for the next sprint. We have 12 sprints between deliveries.
Yeah.
But can you not plan all 12 sprints now, somehow, that I can confirm with my customer when the features will come?
Yeah.
But they just plan the next 2 weeks. What am I going to do with 2 weeks? I need at least, I don't know, 8 weeks of planning.
Yeah.
So how can hybrid come into play with this?
Yes, exactly, because it's the limits of empirical way. You know, the pope of empirism is a Scottish guy, a philosopher, is David Hume. And David Hume says, I don't know if the sun arises tomorrow morning. Is the limit of empirical way. We don't know. And it's why I think hybrid, because it's a mix of, you know, of both, empirical and also idealism, a sort of big picture, very detailed big picture, and to mix the both, and to have, based on targets, measure deliverables, and for the rest, you are responsible, you are free. And see you in the next targets. And I think it's a way to manage this. But effectively, if you don't know, you know, the number of sprints, the number of MVP, you know, it's a woo. It's good for a small project. No problem with a small project. But for long project, for complex project, it's impossible to manage.
Managing my own and the customer's expectations when the answer from the Scrum leader or autonomous, will I get it in the next 2 sprints? Yeah, maybe it depends on the priorities.
Yes.
Please tell me now.
And also the question, the issue is to change the backlog. You know, you have a product backlog, a sprint backlog. And if you change the product backlog very often, you can lose your mind.
But here the problem is the product owner.
Yeah,
it's not the Scrum team who tells you. It's the product owner who says,
exactly.
I want that delivered, and then he's prioritizing the backlog, and he's guaranteeing that the right stuff gets delivered. So it's not a question of you or the Scrum team, it's the product owner you need to bind it.
Yeah, the product owner is the voice of the customer. But what means voice of the customer? Because it's not the customer, it's the voice of. And very often, it's not the voice.
I would just like to add, because we are in Basel, it's a kind of this pharma industry city. Also, the length of the project, from my experience in the company where I work, also it's maybe not crucial if we speak about the product, as you mentioned. If we are building a nuclear submarine or if we are building the medicine. So the final product actually is the one driving us which methodology we will use. So we cannot play a lot with the, in software industry you can play a lot with the product, you can do the sprints and iteration. But in our case this is also something which defines. And of course it's not a short product, it can be part of the program or portfolio. So this is where we maybe do more structured way. However, the hybrid methodology is something that can be, so it's the product that also defines.
I fully agree. I think in pharmaceutical industries you are obliged to follow also authorization. Authorization is very bureaucratic and a lot of constraints with authorization since the beginning of your project during the, and Agile, perhaps except for a small part of your project, you can use Agile, but for me you can be Agile in pharmaceutical. Regarding the constraints, the official constraints, the state constraints, it's very complex. A risk also, because we don't discuss of risks, but you imagine how to control risk. The big risk, not you know the step-by-step risk, the global risk.
And just to add, if I may just to
discuss. Yes, it's a discussion.
Just to wrap up. Your experience, you said that you work now in 2 companies, right?
Yeah, yes.
In witness of the transformation, have you been involved in any kind of transformation in your company?
Yeah.
And how did you perceive the outcome when you transformed the company and in terms of output and the final value?
It's the question of change. At the beginning, a sort of, happy, yes, it will be better. After, whoa. And we need to deliver step by step. It's not a big bang. We need to change on pilot projects, by pockets. If we have a project manager interested by tools and techniques from Agile, from Hybrid, to test and prove the feasibility and the interest. But I think it's dangerous to have a big bang approach for this. You need to identify, pilot pockets or opportunities. For example, with new product development, innovation, it will be okay. But not to create, wow, now we will be hybrid and not agile. But I will have a vision. Hybrid is the future of project management and project manager. And I have had a problem with EY consulting with my client because they want to have the Spotify approach for all projects. Spotify. Very interesting, squad, tribe, it's a very advanced, agile spirit. Very interesting, but I prefer to say, for the moment, Spotify lose money since the beginning. It's a limit. It's interesting, but they lose money. Perhaps like Tesla, perhaps it's an investment for the future. They want to kill the competitors and after they define the price. I don't know. But EY says to the customer, now Spotify is the model to deploy for you. And we are in oil and gas. And I said, it's impossible from my point of view, it's dangerous. And it's a sort of fight during several months, and at the beginning, I win. But for me, it was obvious how to transform an oil and gas company in Agile and Spotify vision. It's totally crazy. But from EY, it's also an opportunity, perhaps, to deploy Spotify everywhere. But during the mission, I learned a lot from, design thinking, a lot of things from Spotify, very interesting. But I'm sure we are a modest man and very reasonable man because we are in reality. And for me, what's important is to take, the good tool, the right technique, the right methodology, and to be really pragmatic, not dogmatic on I am waterfall, I am agile. We don't care. But it's important to master and to know the different possibilities, the different techniques, depending on the situation, the maturity of the team, the maturity of the client, because we have a lot of problems with the client. The client is not mature in agile, and it's a mess with the client because the client said, I want a project in agile. Okay, we deliver in agile, it's a mess. It's why it's important to have a partnership relation with the client to explain and perhaps to explain and explain again, to be clear and to prove the interest to be, to take advantages of the different methodology and vision.
So in the end, what you're saying is that the environment is the most important factor on my choice of methodology.
Yeah, oh yes, exactly. The environment is the client, the maturity of the organization, of my client, of my company, the level of maturity and competencies of the people. The environment is the first thing. But after, because I believe in René Descartes, the famous French philosopher, the discours de la méthode, the importance of the method. Method is a key to change. It's a leverage to change, but method is just a way to do it, to execute. It's not the truth on the earth. But it's very important, the method. Very often, they don't care of method. And what is our job in project management is very often method.
Thank you, Stéphane. small gift for you.
Oh.
So it's a Basel specialty. You
Okay.
came already several times in Basel. I don't think you know them.
It's dangerous.
Leclerc.
Wow.
It's a waterfall approach, every
Yes.
year the same.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I kill myself with chocolates. Thank you very much.
So a few words from
Good.
Stéphane on the annual.
I again
member
have to
meeting.
apologize for this room, for this noise, for this temperature, okay? The temperature, maybe it's better than outside temperature, but anyway, sorry. We promised to learn from this failure, because we are also agile, as Stéphane told us, and exactly that's the point. I want to invite you to our annual member meeting. So most of you are members of PMI, and this year we have our annual member meeting in Zurich at the beginning of February, on the 6th of February. And it's coming, our CEO, Sunil Prashara. He is since 9 months our new CEO, and since he is starting his job, PMI is very agile. No, it's not agile, it's changing. And he will explain us why we are changing and in which direction we are changing. The motto is the power of project economy. And the project economy, that's a very interesting new word, I think. I didn't hear it before. He's coming to our CEO position. That means our economy in the future is everything is projectized. So nothing is working without projectizing, without a project approach. And he's explaining why and how. And so I want to invite you, and I would be very happy to see you and to meet you and to drink a beer or a wine with you in Zurich, and also to drink something outside here. Thank you very much for your coming, and hope to see you.
Thank you, Stéphane. So just a few words about the next events. So in Basel, it will be in March, with a learning to unlearn. We have two also coming events in Zurich. So the one that Stéphane just mentioned, and another one about the artificial intelligence in March. And in Geneva, we have again Peter Taylor, who was there in Basel. It was last November. So have a look on the PMI Switzerland chapter website to register on those events. So you are more than welcome to join our team of volunteers. So if you have an interest for that, please discuss with Stéphane, Léon, Gessami, so all the volunteers which are there today. And what else? So thanks to our main sponsors. So we really hope that despite the not the best conditions, we enjoy the